Before we begin today's content, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the people of Southern California who have been deeply affected by the devastating wildfires. Our hearts are with everyone who has faced loss, fear, and uncertainty during this time. To those who've endured the unimaginable, please know that you are in our thoughts. The strength and resilience of your communities inspire us all, and we hope brighter days are just ahead. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to January Pet Resort, where pet luxury has never been more affordable.
Welcome back to another episode of the January Pet Resort podcast. Dave is here with me again, like every week, which makes an enjoyable podcast. How are you doing today, Dave?
I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yeah, for winter. I'm all right.
Winter is a tough season sometimes, unless you're a big snow lover.
Or a cold lover.
Or a cold lover.
Which I am not.
I am not either. I always have to turn my heater off when we do the podcast because it's so loud.
I always dress for summer when I'm in your office.
Yeah, I get cold very easily.
I know you do.
Today, we're going to be talking about winter safety, things you should know about when it comes to the winter and your pets. I think a very interesting conversation today.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. So one of the things I always like to talk about is going to be the laws. Every state has its own law when it comes to your pets being outside. In the winter, the law in New Jersey states that your pet cannot be outside for more than 30 minutes unattended. We here at January Pet Resort in the winter, we're constantly looking at the weather, the temperature, who's outside, how long they can be outside to play. We cut down on our play times, time-wise, depending on the actual temperature and then the real field temperature, because there's a difference. We all know that if the wind's out there blowing and they're out in the big field running around, it's going to be a lot colder because the real field temperature is down. So they don't want any dog outside under 40 degrees for more than 30 minutes unattended. Now, obviously, our dogs are never unattended when they're outside, but you still have to be careful because you can get frostbite on feet, you can get frostbite on ears. You always have to be aware of that. So the law in the state of New Jersey is your dog cannot be outside for more than 30 minutes unattended. So if you have a snow-loving dog, it doesn't really matter because the law is 30 minutes.
Right. My male, he can just lay outside in the snow in these 40-mile-an-hour winds, and he just looks like he's sunbathing.
And to you, he's happy. He's outside.
He's very happy.
You know, he is enjoying himself, but...
He's also a German Shepherd.
He's a German Shepherd. He's got a long coat, not a short-haired German Shepherd. You have a Husky, you have a Malamute, and they're outside, and they are your Nordic breed dogs.
That's their weather of choice.
And that's exactly it. But because of the law, you have to protect your pet. We always go back to that. You have to protect your pet. You have to do what's best for your pet. And you have to realize that not all people understand. They see a dog outside. It's outside for 45 minutes. But in case you have a neighbor or someone who just doesn't seem to like you for whatever reason that may be, the law is 30 minutes.
Right. So bring your neighbor cookies often.
Exactly.
Especially in the winter if you have a Nordic breed animal.
A Nordic breed dog. So that is one of the laws in New Jersey. We are very close to the Pennsylvania border as well. It is also the same law in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's the same law in PA.
Same law in Pennsylvania.
But, you know, I think, didn't they derive that law from people that just leave their dogs out on chains all day long?
All day long.
Right, so they're the ones that really provoked this whole situation.
There's always a bad apple that is going to spoil it for everyone.
Everyone knows a bad apple.
We all know a bad apple. The other thing that is illegal in the state of New Jersey is tethering your dog outside. So in the state of New Jersey, you cannot have your dog tethered between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. in the state of New Jersey. It's the same for the state of Pennsylvania. So again, be careful because it shouldn't be doing a lot of barking or any of that kind of stuff to attract noise to it.
Yeah, my dogs, they bark.
Right.
But, you know, it's a good thing because I'm on good terms with my neighbors.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a very
And I never
good thing.
really have ever asked them, does this piss you off?
Right.
When Hunter goes running out back at 4 a.m.
and screams
barking at nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, when it goes to tethering as well, in the state of New Jersey, if you do tether your dogs outside, it needs to be at least 15 foot long. because that's the law. In Pennsylvania, it needs to be 3 times the length of your dog or 10 foot long. So unless you have like a Great Dane or you have a large breed dog, and when they say length of dog, they mean from the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail, not just the body. So just go with more than 10 foot. If you don't have a fenced-in yard you might rent, your landlord doesn't want to put up a fence, but your dog needs to be able to go outside without being on a leash, and you're putting it out on a tether, then make sure that it's 15 foot or longer. And then the other thing is, obviously this time of year, just in case you're in an evacuation order, please take your dog with you.
Well, how could you leave him behind? I would run into my burning house to grab my animals.
Yeah. Well,
I would risk my life.
They took responsibility for this animal, for the life of the animal. So let's do everything we possibly can. If you're in an evacuation order and you decide to stay, that's fine. Ship your animals out. Don't make your animals stay with you. Get them to a neighbor's house.
It's sad that you have to even tell people that.
But we see it. We see it all the time.
All the time.
I'm sure 95% of the people who don't take their animals with them, it was for a legitimate reason. And until we're in that situation, we don't know what that reason would be.
Yeah.
But have an evacuation plan. And one other thing that gets a really bad rap, and I've had many discussions with many people about it, is crate training. Many people think that crate training is bad. You're locking your animal up in this small crate, and it's not fair to the dog, and no one wants to listen to a puppy, bark when it's little, when it gets put in the crate. But please remember, if in case you ever have to go into a shelter situation because of an evacuation, they will not take animals that can't be crated. Make sure that you have crates and that they can be comfortably in their crate without trying to break out. I mean, it's one thing for them to be barking in their crate. Okay, whatever. They're barking in their crate. But as long as they're not trying to break out of their crate, just remember that in order to stay at a shelter in an evacuation, your pet needs to be able to be crated.
That's a good tip to know.
Yeah. So as hard as it is when we have puppies and they don't want to be in their crate, teach your pets to be in a crate. All of our animals are crate trained. They all have crates. We have crates that are suitable for each size. You want to make sure that they're comfortable in it, so it's the correct size. I can break them down and throw them in a vehicle as fast as I can grab any of the other stuff that I need to grab.
Absolutely. When you're walking your dog, people don't have fenced-in yards. They're not tethered out back or out front, and they need to take their dog for a walk. They don't wear shoes. Some dogs do.
They do.
But what about the dogs that are bare-pawed, walking around the block? It's 11 degrees out. It's snowed. There's ice. There's salt on the ground. How do you protect the dog's paws, Eileen?
So rock salt is going to be irritating to your dog's paws because of the big chunks. It can get stuck between their toes and it can irritate their toes. It can cut their paws that can create an infection or inflammation, and that's going to hurt. So you want to make sure with rock salt that you're being careful with walking them on it, wiping off their feet. Ice melt, which contains more than just sodium chloride, this is the one that can actually get on your dog's paws and it can actually burn their paws.
During the walk.
I'm going to say it needs to be on there for a little bit before it burns their paws, but it's even more important. And those are going to be like some of the little round white balls you see.
That get in between their paws.
It's you have the big chunks of which is rock salt.
Right.
And then if you've ever seen anyone throw down what looks like little white balls.
The little like green balls.
Little green balls.
Yeah.
That's going to be more your ice melt. So that's going to be something where you're not just wiping off your dog's paws. Like with rock salt, you can wipe them off with just a regular towel. If your dog's walking through ice melt, when you get at home, you want to get a wet towel. You want to kind of rinse them off, and then dry them off and make sure that none of that sits on there. Because once dogs get a little irritation, then they start licking.
So you don't want the ice melt in their mouth.
You do not want them to ingest ice melt. You have to be careful when you're storing ice melt for your personal use or you're storing rock salt. You do not want dogs ingesting either rock salt or ice melt.
Because it's poisonous, right?
It's poisonous. It can cause dehydration. Go as severe as causing seizures and kidney failure when it comes to the ice melt, and the rock salt can kind of do almost the same exact damage.
Who thinks of that when they're taking the dog for a walk? They just want them to go to the bathroom so they can get back to their house as you're in your nice, solid, warm boots.
There are pet-safe ice melt products available, but I'm going to say this. They're also very expensive.
So wash your dog's paws when you get home from your walk in the wintertime.
Exactly.
So, Eileen, what jackets?
So,
because I have Shepherds, and I would never put a jacket on my Shepherd.
No,
but some dogs do wear coats because they do get cold.
Right. You need to definitely know who needs to have a coat. If you have a short-weathered dog that needs a coat, you want to put a coat on it. If you have a dog that gets groomed and you keep them short-haired because of their haircuts, you want to make sure that they have a coat. Feel their ears. I always check Hershey's ears, and if his ears are cold, I know he's going to need his coat.
Is that how you can tell if a dog's cold, when you feel their nose, like their noses are freezing, or is it their ears? Or
Noses can work with that. You can definitely check out The noses, I tend to go with Hershey's ears more because he has floppy ears, so I can feel the tips of his ears.
So if his ears are freezing, you know he's cold.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll know he's cold. I just feel his ears. Are you cold? Okay, you need your sweater. And as soon as I pull out his sweater, he jumps off the couch and stands there and lets me put his sweater on because he knows exactly what it is and he wants it on.
Yeah, so because he wants to be warm.
Yeah, exactly. This is also, I will say, though, the dog that when there's a blanket on the couch, he will grab the blanket and try and cover himself with it. So I then again also know that he's cold.
Yeah, well, we are talking about your dog, Eileen.
He's a good dog.
He's a very good dog.
He's a very good dog. But
you just have to teach him how to pay the bills next.
Oh, gosh. If only he could learn how to do that. My gosh.
I know, you'd be famous.
I would be famous, and I'd be a
We wouldn't be
happy
making this podcast.
Other things, please make sure in the winter your dogs have collars with tags on them or any sort of type of identification just in case. Remember, dogs in the winter, the scents that lead a dog home could be disrupted because of the weather and how cold it is and their ability to smell in the cold and any scents that have now been covered up by
It's a good
snow.
point. Yeah.
So please,
and then they're outside. Right. Unattended.
Yep, exactly.
And depending on what kind of breed it is, I mean, time is everything.
Time is everything. So microchip your dog. Make sure you update your microchip. If you move or any contact information, make sure that's taken care of. Make sure your dog has a collar on it with at least your phone number, or they make really great collars now that you can have your phone number embroidered on the collar.
Yeah, and they make really great collars too that you can just download an app to know where your dog is at all times if the dog should get loose.
You
by
can,
accident.
yes.
So the bottom line is when you're out with your dog, you have to make good decisions for them.
Also remember, this is winter. If you're doing your own antifreeze, be careful.
I remember learning this. Antifreeze tastes sweet to
Exactly.
an animal. And we already know the ending to that.
We know the ending to that. And then one of the other things that I did want to say was we had talked about the way you feed your dog and making sure your dog stays at optimum body conditioning score and all that stuff. The thing is, remember, in the winter, your dog is burning more calories to keep warm when it's cold out. Like when you go on your walk, your dog is going to be burning more calories because its body's working to keep itself warmer because it's so cold outside. Change the way you're feeding your dog. Your dog might have to be, especially if your dog's an active dog, in the winter also.
So feed it a little bit more,
Feed
like
it a
you
little
talked
bit
about
more.
when they bring in the January and you know they're going to be running around, feed it a little bit more because they're burning calories running.
Exactly.
But it's also the same theory in the wintertime because they're burning calories just to stay warm.
Just to stay warm.
That's unbelievable. I didn't know that.
So when you're thinking about being prepared for your family in the case of a snow situation where you lose power, I have an emergency preparedness kit for my family, and this is the one for the dog. Make sure you always have throughout the winter, have enough food for your dog.
We talked about that. So your emergency kit isn't just for emergencies when you're out on trails.
On trails.
It's also emergency kits in case you lose power.
Exactly. So keep that in mind too. Make sure you have enough food. Make sure you have enough water. If your dog is on medication, make sure you never get to the point where you're gonna run out. Always make sure you have enough. If we're out and we're closed and all of that is going on, then more than likely our vet is as well. Then you're looking at disruptions when it comes to trucking and getting our packages delivered. So don't cut it close in the winter.
Right. Be a good scout. Be prepared.
Be prepared. Definitely another thing that we want to make sure of is that we're always prepared. They always say to keep at least 5 days of stuff like medication, food, water, that kind of stuff on hand. I would say more than 5 days because you never know when it's going to happen.
So be prepared. You do it for your kids. Do it for your kids with fur.
And then one thing with that, I will also say that they make awesome paw and nose balm that you can get, and you can put that on the dog's feet and their nose before you go on a walk. On the feet, it's great because it provides a very thick layer of protection, natural protection that will wear off by the end of their walk. But it is another added level of protection on their feet and then also on their nose to help protect their nose from those high winds and those wind chills and all of that stuff.
And that should be in your kit.
And that should be in your kit because we did talk about that.
That's right. We reviewed that.
So those, I think, are a lot of really good things to just be aware of when you're out with your dogs in the winter, just to be prepared and make sure that your pet is enjoying the winter weather as much as possible with being as safe as possible. But I think right now we're going to go ahead and wrap today up. This has been a lot of information. We hope everyone stays warm and safe and healthy this winter season, and we will talk to you all next week.